You are now listening to the Do It Movement podcast, where we share our experiences in real estate investing and encourage you to take action. You don't want to miss what we have in store today, so let's welcome our host, Martine Richardson, and our co-host, Laura Eubanks.
What's up today, Do It Movement listeners? This is your host, Martine Richardson, your buy and hold coach. I am joined today with my co-host, Laura Eubanks, and the Dee Hammond. How you doing today, Dee?
Well, how are you ladies doing?
Blessed and
Amazing.
highly favored.
Look, same. God is good. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
We're so excited to have you, Dee, and just hear about your journey and learn from you. So let us know, how did you get started in this real estate world and what were you doing?
Well, I was a two-time apprentice, a trades apprentice with the city of Detroit, and I had just gotten married and joined a church. And my pastor at that time, he was a really financial guy. As he taught finances like something fierce, but he was also into real estate himself. And so when he taught on the four rivers that fed the Garden of Eden, he taught that as we should all have four rivers or streams of income to feed our households. And because he was into real estate, he kind of geared us toward real estate, myself and my husband. I had owned my own home. I had purchased my own house at 23, but I had never thought about rental properties or anything like that. And I'm just that type of crazy person, like, okay, you planted the seed, let's see what I can do with it. And so from there, I formed my LLC and I took a HELOC out on my personal residence and I bought my first rental property. With that one, it was a flip. And it was just, kind of a, can you do it type of thing. I like to challenge myself, can you actually pull this off? And so it became twofold. Can I pull this off? And what can I do to support my parents who have never owned anything in their life? So I actually ended up selling that house, flipping it, of course, not for a great profit, but I sold it to my parents so that they could actually have home ownership before they left this earth. And so we were able to do it. We did it, and it was great. It was
That's
a wonderful
awesome.
feeling. It was a wonderful feeling. So that's pretty much how I got started. I did purchase a duplex the next year. So I kind of, was doing the BRRRR method and had no idea that I was doing the BRRRR method. So with that next one, I still have that duplex to this day. So that was 2008, and I still have that one. But I wasn't educated enough in the real estate investing to know really what the BRRRR method was and to, that rinse and repeat type of situation. So I kind of stopped there for like 10 years. So I worked a full-time job and, I had the one rental property for a while, for a good while. So that's how I got started. My great
Well, that's
pastor.
amazing. You got into it with purpose. You were helping your family. That's huge. So
Thank you.
when you took a break, and what made you jump back into it?
So my husband and I, we had our house built from the ground up. That was back in 2011. And so we were moving. So I decided, hey, don't sell that house. We can just rent that house out and, move. And so that's what we did. And it worked out so smoothly. It was almost scary. I just got a text message like, hey, I got a house for rent. And a friend of ours texted us back, like, do you take Section 8? And I'm like, heck, yeah, I take Section 8. I had no idea. But we got it worked out, and she moved in and was a great tenant for years. And then in 2018, my now pastor and his wife, his wife stayed across the street from my former house. And I didn't really know her. I hadn't seen her. When I say like across the street, I mean like I should have seen her. But anyway, her mom was getting elderly and she needed to move into, a senior community. And she wanted to sell her house. The people next door to her, they wanted to buy it. They wanted it for their daughter. And she, for whatever reason, would not sell the house to them. So my pastor's wife, which is my friend, she called me like, hey, mom's selling her house. You want it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. And I got that house and maybe did like $3,000 worth of rehab to it and had a tenant.
Oh, wow.
That ended up being an unintentional flip because the people next door still wanted that house. Wanted that house. And I wasn't, like in love with it. Like, okay, make me an offer. And so I used my husband kind of as my agent. He kind of was brokering and dealing back and forth with them. So that was interesting. And I ended up selling them that house. So I bought that house for 15,000, put 3,000 in it, ended up selling it for 40,000, 43,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and it ended up the way it worked out. It took a year for that to happen. So those long-term capital gains I didn't have to pay.
That's right. We're all about that.
Right. So yeah, so that was that. 2018 happened, and I was still working full time, mom, wife, but I was unsatisfied in my job. I was ready to go, and my husband was like, "You can go whenever you want to," but I like the money. I was making really good money, and then pandemic happened, and now I'm working from home. And with my job, I really shouldn't have been working from home, but it just worked out like that. But I still wasn't fulfilled. And so October 2020, I left and did not know that I would be real estate investing full time at that point. It wasn't until January of 2021 where a $17 masterclass ended up on my Facebook newsfeed. And that it sparked it from there. It sparked it from there. So here I am. 4
Wow.
years later.
$17 investment brought you back in.
I got $17.
Is that what you said? Yes. So now today you're full-time investing. What
Mhm.
type of deals do you look for, and are you still doing the rental strategy, or are you flipping and renting?
So I am doing buy and holds rentals. But when I jumped back in, I said, I'm going to flip 2021. I'm going to flip. So we found a house, word of mouth, former coworker, purchased a house. It was like chaotic from there. That flip did not go according to plan, of course. This 2021 contractors are not contracting as they should. So, and when we're new, so we're trying to build those relationships, with contractors. And so, it just made it really difficult. And that flip took forever to the point where, once we were done and got it on the market, we had kind of missed the boat, for what they were selling for. You guys remember houses were going way over asking.
Right.
We kind of missed the boat on that. So we didn't make what we thought we should make. In fact, that was a failure. And I use air quotes on failure because we learned so many lessons during that time that, I can't really call it a failure. It's just like, okay, do better next time. But
Tuition. We
yeah,
just
do better next
count it
time.
as education.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Lori?
I said count it as tuition or education,
Exactly, a bought lesson. Sometimes the bought lesson is the best lesson.
That's right.
Right.
That's awesome. So today, and we can all relate. We've all had those flips where you're like, it's going to be great. And then all the things happen. And, so
Mhm.
eventually it does happen. And we do take it and get better. So, well, what kept you going after that experience? Were you like, I'm just going to stick to the rental, buy and hold? Or what did you do at that point?
Education. I really dove into education and networking. So it guidelines things up so well. He took that $17 masterclass, and from there, I branched off with a group of ladies we formed our own Facebook group. And one of the ladies who ran that group, she did a lot of educating us. And one of those things she did was brought in Daniel Clayman with Rehab Evaluator. And so from there, I said, okay, I'll purchase it. Like, he did really well selling it.
Right.
Like, I think that's the product that I need. And from there, Inner Circle, Jim Ingersoll and Deal Maker. And so, just a lot of education going to the Deal Maker events and everything. Inner Circle every Wednesday, watching Martine rock it out. Like, you have no idea, Martine. Like, those early days for me, I would get on there and you would speak, Jim would ask you a question, you would speak. And I'm like, oh my goodness, look at her. Look at her. And I'm like, I gotta know her. I don't necessarily want to use you, but I want to see what you're doing, how you're doing it. I could just tell even back then, like, she's going to be something. She is going to be something.
I appreciate that.
I love it. So it sounds like you surrounded yourself, you made your own network, and you got inspiration from that and support. And I think a lot of people, that's what they're missing. So I think that's important that you shared that.
Yeah, I kind of, adopted that motto, do it scared.
That's right.
Do it
We call this the
scared.
Do It Movement podcast for a reason. We got to get to it. All of this analysis, paralysis, learning, do it, even if you're scared.
And that's not to say that I am not guilty of analysis paralysis. That should be probably my middle name because sometimes it does take me a little while to move on things. For the most part, I'll jump in. I'll jump in and, with God on my side, I'm like, I can't fail. I can't fail. I may learn some lessons. I may buy some lessons along the way, but I can't fail.
Well, I just want to say that I love everything that you just said. When you were getting these deals, like, you're speaking my language 5,000%, because, most people, they get in and they're like, oh, I got to market to go get deals. I got to direct mail. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's nothing wrong with doing that. But you got in and you said, well, my pastor wife mom had a house she wanted to sell and they knew that I bought them. So you were letting people know what you were doing and they wanted to sell it to you. Then you said, I had an old coworker that had a house and then they sent it to me. And that is my preferred way of doing business. Yeah, I love it when everybody knows what you do and they're sending it your way, so they knew that you had something in you, because otherwise they wouldn't have trusted you with buying their house. They would have sent it to somebody else. They was like, Dee is moving and shaking. I need to sell my house to her. So I love it. I love it. I love it. It's amazing. You. So since you started, Dee, like, where have you, I guess, taken the business? Because I know you mentioned that, you got in and you did I think you said your first house, so you had it as a rental property and it went really well. And then you wanted to get into flipping and you didn't make as much profit as you want. And it was a failure, but it's only failing if we quit. You use that as a lesson so that you could keep going. And you was like, well, maybe I need a little bit more education before I take on the next thing. So you paid $17, very reasonable, affordable. And you just kept going with it from there, because I guess you saw value in that. And then you got to another group, and then you got to another group, and then you got to another, and you immersed yourself with those people around you. But since you've started, where have you taken your business? Are you just doing buying, holding, and flipping, or what all are you doing?
So, of course, definitely buy and hold is the meat and potatoes. But since attending the Inner Circle meetings and learning the other aspects of real estate investing, I've now began to lend funds to other investors to help them achieve their goals. And I am embarking upon my furnished rental branch of my business called Fertile Ground Property Solutions. And with this one, this will be our first home that we'll be offering as a furnished rental. But I didn't want to go the short-term rental route per se. With my first one, kind of, God led me to think about serving our special needs community. So with this, our first home will be, our avatar per se will be the special needs community, which includes our veterans. So they would have affordable housing. So I think from there, I just believe that God will bless and branch it out even further. And, once I make those connections, that I'll be able to hopefully prayerfully quickly amass more homes to be able to help that community and even more communities, not just, special needs. It could be mothers that need to transition or, whatever the need is, as well as I want to do corporate rentals. I do. So I'm kind of, you know, I have a few different thoughts in my head that I want to
Right.
do with this business. But again, it's called Fertile Ground Property Solutions, and that fertile ground is significant because I liken myself to fertile ground. There have been folks who have poured into me, sown seeds, and I take those seeds and I do make something happen from it. I had back in the day, my very first home I bought for myself, my coworkers were like, you can own your own home? And I'm like, I can? I'm thinking like, I got to get out of my mom's house. I have a baby now. Let me find somewhere to rent. And they said you can own your own home. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let me find out how. And so, yeah, with my pastor, sowing the seeds of investment properties. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fertile.
I
So the name is
I I love everything about this because, like you said, people planted seeds into you and you made them into beautiful flowers with all that you've been accomplishing. And now you're going to be able to do that with other people. So that's amazing. And I just want to let the listeners know I did not pay Dee to tell me that buy and holding was the best strategy. I just want to let y'all know that because it is. We're not biased, but it is the best strategy. And I just need you guys to hear it over and over and over again so you can feel that it's the best strategy in that way. And I love how you said that you've branched out into private lending. Now you're still buying and holding, but now your clientele is somebody that you can help them either provide them housing so they can be stabilized, or if they're going through a situation where they need to get to a better place in their life, you're going to help them in that way. Yes. So not only does this have to be about money, this could be about making your community better. Yes. This could be built with purpose. And that's what I'm hearing from what you're telling. Exactly. This is what I'm hearing from what you're doing, and this is amazing. But still, buy and
hold. Buy and hold.
And then a lot of one thing I want to mention too to listeners, because I'm always preaching, hey guys, get your house at a good enough discount, get you a private lender to pay it 100%. And you're like, oh my God, where am I going to get this private lender? Oh my God, Dee says she's private lending. They're all around you. You need to talk to people. You need to communicate and see how you can add value to their lives and they can add value to yours as well. But anyway, so Dee, how do you feel about, how far you've come into investing? You're doing this full time now. You're helping change your community with your fertile ground property solutions. How does it feel now to go from where you were to where you are now?
I'm extremely proud of myself. I will say that because I'm just a regular girl, like I say it all the time, regular Black girl from Detroit, Highland Park, Michigan.
You are not regular. There's something special about you.
Appreciate that.
That's for sure.
I do. I realize I do, have favor on my life. I do realize that. So I am special, in that regard. But, I didn't have home ownership in front of me, growing up. I had maybe one uncle or, two who may have owned their own homes, but in my immediate circle, I didn't see that. And so I'm proud that I do have that ability to, if somebody pours into me, that I don't just let it die, that I want them to know that they're pouring into good soil. So, if it makes sense, if it's possible, I'll try and figure out how to do it. So I am proud. I feel like, how hindsight is 2020. Like, girl, you could have kept going back in 2008. Do you know where you could have been by now? But spilt milk. I'm not gonna cry over it. I'm just thanking God for today.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Don't
And just
worry, if you have tears to cry, Lori has them for you.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
So
Look,
good.
I tried to not, I tried to not cry a lot, but I am a very emotional being. But I'm trying to be a big girl today. Um, but yeah, I'm proud. My children, they really do look at me and they see something special, and that's what makes me cry. Just
That's
and hope
legacy.
to lay it out, before them and understanding, your children are your children. That's they're gonna live their lives. They may not want to do this real estate investing strategy that I'm doing. So, I'm thinking of ways to leave the legacy to them, but in a way that they, would be able to receive it and not squander it because I'm working too hard. Squander it.
Sure, you're doing a lot more than you think you're doing. You're inspiring them to go after all the dreams they wanted to go after. My mama did it scared, and she made it happen. And she made. I'm not trying to make you cry or nothing, but you made it happen.
Sure, Martine. Sure, you're not.
That's right.
But no, so one thing, and I have to say this because I think it's difficult for us to see it when we're doing it. But I know I noticed something special in you, Dee, because not only were people telling you what to do, you were actually going out and doing it. Like people would share a story or they would say this is a strategy you could use. And I could tell that you were going out to do it because you would come to me with a question that only someone would ask if they were doing it. Like it wasn't a question. It wasn't a question of like, well, when you're getting started, do you do this? You're like, well, I got the house under contract and I'm structuring the deal. I'm seeing how, and I was like, this girl a mover and shaker. I'm loving this. I love when I meet a fellow mover and shaker because so many people get stuck into like the details. Like they hear this big picture and it kind of stops them in their tracks because they're like, well, how do I talk to the seller, or how do I do this, or what does this look like? And I mean, I'm not saying that those aren't valid questions. They are, but I feel like those questions should be asked when you get there. So like I know a lot of the time because I'm coaching, I see people and students, they're asking me about step 7 and we're on step 2. Let's worry about step 2. I noticed that you would ask me about step 7 when you were on step 7. So I love it. I love it. And I think the name of your company is perfect because that's definitely fertile ground over there. If you want to share a tip, you giving it to Dee. She about to make it grow, make it blossom, make it beautiful. So that's amazing. That's amazing. So on your journey, what would you say has been something that has been someone, a product, a book, whatever, that has been like the most, I don't know, influential is the best way of me saying it, but something that really helped you take it to the next level? Because in my eyes, you've taken it to the next level if this is your full-time source of income.
I am going to say unequivocally Jim Ingersoll.
Yes.
Jim Ingersoll. From, Inner Circle to, coming to Deal Maker. And so I'm liking myself as an extroverted introvert. Like I'm like really quiet. I'll, kind of be off to myself or whatever. But, if somebody, sparks a conversation with me or something, then I'll, turn into Chatty Cathy. But I had to, kind of come out of myself and like, hey, you got to go talk to, people. Make sure you introduce yourself, and that's what I did. When I got to Dealmaker that first year, hey, I'm Dee from Michigan. Like,
that's right.
I just want you to know, I'm here, whatever, I said to him. But I think that might have made, kind of an impact on him, that he was like, thank you, for introducing yourself. So, even from there, I made sure like, okay, I got to find Martine. Just say, hey, with Dealmaker and all of the different other areas now of real estate investing that I'm learning about, and there's so much, and it's kind of overwhelming. But just the fact that he's putting on these type of events to help us to know that there are other things out there, that was very instrumental to me. And going from there, I think one of the inner circles we were talking about doing finance anything, and they were talking about wrap lending. And at this time, like you said, I'm already, the step, when I'm on the step, I had already moved my 401 over to a self-directed IRA. I'm just like, okay, let me ask this question. Okay, what do I do now?
Right.
It's sitting there like it's not supposed to sit there. And so Jim is like, either myself or Jeff can, kind of hold your hand maybe. And I think not even a week later, Jim called like, hey, I got something that I need you to lend on with me. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't really even honestly care about the details like that. It's just like, okay, he said he would hold my hand. And so I got to. So I did. I lent with him on a couple. And in the middle of lending on those, I had a deal myself. So I did hard money with that flip that went awry. And I was going to do hard money with this one. And something had kind of went a little sketchy. And so I'm like, hey, Jim, like, I got this property, you mind lending? And he told me no.
What? I was not expecting you to say that.
I know, but look, the God I serve. And I reached out to a couple of other folks because they say, hey, you're supposed to ask, right? This is all the stuff that I'm learning. So I reached out to a few other folks within the inner circle Dealmaker community. And no, I don't have it to lend right now, or maybe when I get to know you a little bit better, down the line, maybe. And I'm like, okay, I'm just taking it all on the chin. I know I have my hard money, but I don't want to go that route. But anyway, to fast forward, Jim and I do our 2 loans together. And he said to me, he says, Dee, once they find out that you're a private money lender, people will be more apt to lend to you. I said, okay, it's great. I'm just stocking that away for later. Like, okay, great. Once they find out, then maybe on the subsequent ones, someone will, lend to me privately. And as soon as we got off the phone, he texts me, send me the information on the deal you were talking about. And I'm like, what? I said, the one I asked you about before, here, I just ran it all off to him. He said, I can do it. And so,
awesome.
Was he trying to test you?
That's what it was.
Stop. Oh, that's awesome.
So
I love that.
Has been great. They held my hand through everything and continue to. And yeah.
So you bring up a point that I don't want people to miss.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of points, but ones that I just want to point out. So I'm going to say 2 because it goes back to where you asked the question when you're ready. You said you already had rolled over the money and you're like, okay, what do I do with it now?
Right.
So you ask actionable questions. So like questions that I'm going to do today, which that's great because that's really helped you get to where you are. And then I noticed that when you said that so Jim called you to do a loan and you're like, for sure. And the reason that you were for sure when you said that is because you already knew, like, and trusted Jim. You trusted that Jim was not going to take advantage of you. You knew that he was going to make sure that you were taken care of. He wasn't going to put you in a position that was going to put you at risk. Absolutely. So when you have those deep relationships with people, and I'm sure that came from him pouring into you. I mean, he's poured into all of us on here. And then like when you tell him about it, he's like, oh, I don't want the credit. I don't want the credit. But he's poured into all of us because he poured so much into us that if he wanted something and we had it, it's yours, Jim.
It's yours. It is.
And that's what happens when you know, like, and trust people. And because of that got you into doing more deals and lending. Then you got people to lend on your deals for private money, so you weren't just doing hard money anymore. And then I have a question that I want to ask you, because I know this is a shift that comes in your mindset. So what do you think about people that they want to get money on their deals, but they feel like they are asking or begging for money? Like, they look at it in a negative way of asking people for money on their deals. What advice do you have for those people?
Like you said, it is a mind thing. So you definitely have to shift your thinking from those, those limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a goal in mind, it's a means basically to an end.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what people do. This is, a practical institution within real estate investing. It's not something that you just invented and decided, hey, I think I'm going to, maybe I should ask someone to loan on my deal privately. No, this is a tried and true proven method. So just, think about your short-term goals and your long-term goals, and just think of it that this is a tool. This is a tool that you use to get to your goal. And
So
that's it.
I want to ask the question with your lender hat on this time.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that you know, like, and trust, they got a good deal. They reach
Mm-hmm.
out to you like, D, I need a loan. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like, oh, man, here they go begging for money again? Or how do you feel when you get into that type of situation?
Listen, this is for a purpose. It's a two-way street. So it's, I'm helping you and you are helping me. So yeah, ask. And it's so funny that my first rap that I did, where I was the rap lender recently, it's my contractor. So one that I know, I love, and I trust. Because he's a contractor, he's moving on that house. He's moving, and he's, asking me. So I'm guiding him along the way, next steps and everything. And he's like, okay, you think I can get a refinance in 2 months? I said, you maybe could, but don't do that. I said, it doesn't help me if you do that.
Right.
Remember, this is a win-win situation for the both of us. And so, it was just a gentle reminder. And he was like, oh, yeah, you're right. So he understood. So, just educating and helping your borrowers understand, yeah, of course I want you to pay me back, but not too quickly.
Right.
Take your time.
So what I'm hearing is that if you know, like, and trust the person, they found a good deal and they want the money for the deal, you like making money on your money. Is that what you're...
I do. I can't wait till I get to the point where I'm not just lending out of my IRA. Like, I want, if I can make this, a business, outside of that, then I definitely would do it.
I love it. Have there been, I know I already asked the question about the resources, and you said, really knowing Jim really helped you a ton. And that shows you the power of having a wonderful mentor in your life that wants to pour into you and make sure that you get to the goal that you're looking to reach for yourself. But have there been any, like, resources in terms of, like, books, apps, software, any of that you think really helped take your, your journey to the next level?
So apps, definitely Rehab Evaluator is a jewel to have in your investing business. It definitely is. And my bookkeeper gave me, godly, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. It was the book by Napoleon Hill. No, was it Think and Grow Rich?
Another one. With the Devil?
No, I think it was Think and Grow Rich. It was Think and Grow Rich, absolutely. So that was one resource that, helped that mind shift change. Profit First for real estate investors has been another. I'm still, still reading, but implementing as I go. So those have been really good resources. And I've just begun, I have Jeff Watson's book, Boaz on Real Estate. So Boaz on Business. So I've just begun reading his book as well. And even just out the gate, it's like, wow, because it really touches on my other aspect of, myself, which is, my faith. So that has been great as well.
That's
That
awesome.
has been great as well. Another resource I will say,
go ahead.
One more is
She got resources galore. I love it.
this incredibly smart young lady that I follow on Facebook who has begun her coaching career. She has a Facebook group called Freedom Inc., where she does case studies and she drops jewels that are just so instrumental in helping us real estate investors. So, Martine, you have been an awesome resource as well.
I appreciate that.
Going back to, what you said about me calling like, hey, I'm on step 7. What do I do now? Thank you for even back then, not even really knowing me, but answering my questions when I had them. That helps a lot. And so I like to pay that forward. And I do.
You're giving resources galore. You're giving more value than we're even asking you to give. I love it. I love it. And most of those books that you were talking about are on there. So, guys, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, if you haven't read Profit First for Real Estate Investors, if you haven't read Boaz on Business, get it now. Stop waiting. It's the Do It Movement podcast. Make it happen. Now, Dee, if people want to get in contact with you, what is the best way that they can get in contact with you?
My email for right now, which is my first name, Deidrea, DEIDREA, at Hammond, HAMMOND, -CI.com, or my phone number, 248-923-1544. I am still trying to get my websites off the ground. Direction.
Dee's phone is about to blow up. One thing I thought about when you were saying you were introducing yourself as Dee from Michigan, you could be Dee from the D. We know what the D is.
Dee from the D. Ask me.
Lori, if people want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, on all the social media sites, you can reach out my email that Martine will put in the notes. And I just love deal making. I love working with private lenders. We love just talking real estate. So reach out. Love to connect.
Absolutely.
Say thank you, Dee, for being on the podcast today. I'm sure that you inspired more people than you know from sharing your story, sharing your go-getter mentality, and making it happen for you and your family. So thank you so much for being on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me. This was so fun.
And if you guys want to reach me, you didn't hear this from me, you heard it from Dee. To reach me on my Facebook group, it's free. It's called The Freedom Inc. We talk all things buy and hold. If you come in there talking about wholesaling, we're kicking you out unless you're wholesaling to us. So catch me on that Tuesday case study, and I show you exactly how to put together and structure a real deal. So I'm not making up a fictitious one. I'm showing you one that was actually done and how you can duplicate that and do it for yourself. But until next time, Do It Movement listeners, see ya.
Thanks for the opportunity, ladies.
Thank you for tuning into our show. If you need more hand-holding on your rental property investor journey, book a 15-minute strategy session with Martine. We can see if you're a fit for the Freedom Inc. fam, link in the show notes. Also be sure to join the free Freedom Inc. Facebook group, where each week Martine goes over a real-life rental property investor deal and shows you how the deal was found, how to get the money, and how to make it cash flow and much more. If you'd like to connect with Lori, be sure to email her at vitalizeproperties@live.com. Until next time, see you.